Right then, we're servicing the Land Rover today. I've accidentally done 4,500 miles between the service, and I'd like to do it around 3. Obviously last year was a bit busy. We've just been out for a dog walk and to warm the Land Rover up, so all the fluids are nice and warm, so I can get draining now. Right then, so first job to drain the oil is to remove the oil filler cap. And we'll just place it to the side. Looks like I should probably change the fuel filter as well, going by the rust on there. Also looks like I've got an oil leak from somewhere, so it might be worth doing the rocker cover gasket while we're here. That's the last of the oil drain now. I might just go in and have a cup of tea and let that drain. I got absolutely covered in oil then. But yeah, there we go. Let that drain, then we can take the oil filter off then, once we've got the sump plug back in. Right, so new thing I've decided to like do is just write the miles and date on the new filter. So that's the miles. So 192474. Right, so both marks up. Let's get the oil filter off now. Right, so let's get the sump plug back in then. Right, cross-threading it like anything. There we go. And we'll just tighten it up with the socket. I don't actually seem to have the right size socket for this. But anyway, I'll just nip that up, then we're done then. And get the filter off then and move the pan over below it. Right, it's going to be very messy, but you can see I've got my big pliers on there. It's coming undone easy enough. Obviously I can't really film this, but I need to get the oil pan directly below it to catch the dripping. And then we're going to check the seals come off of the old oil filter. And we're going to wipe a smear of oil on the new oil filter. It should probably pre-fill the new oil filter because it's an angle. I don't usually bother on this one. But yeah, okay, well, that's the oil filter cracked off. We'll just let the oil drain out a minute that's in there. There we go then, new filter on, done it up hand tight. We can drain the oil into our sump oil container now. Right, so let's get the transfer box drained then. So we'll take out the fill plug first, and then we've just got the 17mm one there that I've already pre-loosened. As you can see, it's nice and full, but that might also be the angle we're at. Let's try and undo this fill plug. Oh, a bit tight. Right, drain plug even. Oh, so I'm going to do that by hand. I'll just whip that out a sec. Okay then, see what comes out. Oh, nice and black. That was ready for a change then. But you still see it is a bit see-through. Let that drain and I can refill the engine oil now with that draining. Right then, I've already put 5 litres of oil in. I've just put in just under a litre because I think the capacity is like 5.8 litres. So we'll chuck that in. I will start it and then switch the engine off, and then we'll check it again before we use the vehicle again to make sure it's on the max. There we go, that should do it. So we'll fire it up now and we'll check for leaks. Right, so we've got one of these pumps trying to help make the oil change easier. Hopefully it will work so I can get the sump plug back in the transfer box now. It did mostly screw in by hand, but you just got to be careful with these, not to do them up too tight because they go into alley. So this was off of a transfer box I got off of a 110, so and that was 200 TDI as well, so it's probably quite an old transfer box. Just do it up not too tight, and we can get the hose in the filler plug then. Well, that worked really well. That was filled up in seconds. So I might get the gearbox draining now, and while this pump's in the gear oil, I'll do the axles now. Onto the axles then. So I'll see we're listen off the drain plug first, or the fill plug first even. So sometimes with these you can get a bit of dirt in the end, so you want to try it with a screwdriver. I think last time I put magnets on these, so it'd be interesting to see what comes out. Okay, it's going to be a bit it's two-handed. Oh, it's tight. It looks like there's some sealer on the threads or something. Obviously there was new plugs in there, so I don't really put a thread lock on them or something. Or PTF tape or something. We can do it by hand now. Yes, we can. Well, that needed a change. Okay, it's only finished draining, so I cleaned the magnet up. There wasn't much on there, it was just like a film of metallic on there. Wasn't no chunks or anything, which is always promising, especially as we've been off-roading. But yeah, I need to get back under here really and repaint the axle cases. That feels like I do that quite a lot, but yeah, it's a Land Rover. Right, so you're going to know it's full before I do. There we go. Might be a bit over full, but I'm not worried. A bit of gear oil, isn't it? So this one will be a little bit over full, because obviously with the swivel grease does weep into the axles after a while. Oh, that's quite a lot too full actually. We'll have to check the swivel levels, though I did check them not that long ago. I'm guessing that happens when it gets hot on the longer journeys. Well, that's just draining now, but yeah, it was a bit over full that, but I'm still not too worried. It's only an axle. There's some air that come out of there. Looks like this guy's picked up a bit of rubbish, so it's probably worth putting that in there. Same as the rear one, you'll see when it's full before I will. There we go, so I'm not worried about this one being over full because it will go into the, so we should slow it down leaking from out of the swivel housings. Right, so onto the gearbox now then. Right, so it's a 13mm1/2 inch under here. I sit down square bung, so I have loosened it off most of the way. And then we've got to remember what sizes this is, and then there's another drain one there for it. Obviously you don't drain your transfer box that you've just changed. Yeah, that's two there. I think there's a filter in behind this one. So the gear oil looks really clean. So this is a filter out of it. I'll just give it a spray with brake clean and get it in. It looks like it wants replacing right from how twisted it is. Onto the rusty old fuel filter then. I've just slackened it off with the pliers. We'll undo it. Oh, leaking a bit of diesel. There we go. Let's see the seals come off with it. Ideal. Just put that down by a box because that might be handy for something. Right, new filter on. I have put a bit of like oil and stuff in it just to try and prime it. I haven't got any spare diesel, but we'll see how it goes. That's the gearbox oil filled. Yep, made a right mess with that. Probably should do the air filter as well while we're at it, so we'll just whip this out in a minute. So I'm going to unclamp on mine because that one broke off. It's all straightforward. I just pop off that bottom hose there from the intake into the clamp, and it lifts out and you've got to spin off the end. So you have to make sure you put this back on the right way because it's got the nipple there to let water out, where there's 2 arrows there you line up. Let's have a look, see what it's like inside. Well, that looks really dirty. I'd say that's due a change. We'll pop a new one on there then. Probably try and give this a quick clean out. I'll say this is my last Britpart air filter. I ordered a load in bulk before I left home, probably like 10 years ago or something. But yeah, anyway, we can get this in then. And he goes in one way. Looks like we've got a new washer there for that. Push that in. That on there. I'll take the washer. Right, is that cleaned off? And we can pop this one back on then. So obviously that thread there lines up with that. Might be easier single-handed. Right, so that's screwed back on. Obviously make sure you get these 2 arrows lined up, or you put it in the same position it was in before. That's the service done on this one then. Obviously probably need to replace the belts and things. The cam belt should be alright because we've done that a couple of years ago. But yeah, should be the Land Rover good for a couple more years now. Well, if you made it to the end, well done. So it's the Land Rover service now. We're still working on the Beetle, but obviously I'm really limited with time, and I just haven't had any time in the last 2 months to work on the Beetle, but Now I just got to fit a new exhaust onto the engine and fit the engine back in, so hopefully we'll be back on the hills again with more content. Also got a trailer we're doing up, got to do some paint work on the camper van soon because we're going away in that soon. And yes, we still have the Volvo, still going strong.